Okay, so we have an MSI Pulse GL76 in, which appears to be overheating. I've done some checks, it seems perfectly alright when it's idling, but as soon as you do anything, the processor temperature shoots up to 90 degrees or thereabouts, and we're not talking about gameplay here, we're just talking about anything at all. So I'm going to open it up and I'm going to refit the heatsink with new thermal paste. So let's have a look at what we've got. Always the fun bit, getting all the screws out and trying to figure out how the thing comes apart. This is a completely uncut, unedited video, so you can see exactly what we go through without taking it apart first, figuring out what to do, and then doing the job again. Because what would be the point in that? That's where fingernails come in handy. And I haven't got fingernails. I might need to resort to a bit of assistance. Worried about me using a magnet to get screws out. At this point I have never ever had a problem, and I've been doing this for near on 20 years. Okay, so now we need some pry tools. Yeah, so we'll have that. I'll have my trusty plectrum, which is rather worn out, and we shall have this, and a pack of thermal paste might be handy. See where we're at. See where it comes apart. Looks like it's just at the very edge. That's good. So I'm going to use a metal pry just to get a bit of, just to get in. Give it a little bit of a twist. And then we'll get the plectrum, and then we shall try and open it up. The one thing with gaming laptops is they tend to either have loads and loads of access panels for upgrades and things like that, or at the very least they seem to be good at being designed to come apart relatively easy for maintenance. Now this computer is out of warranty, so we're not going to have any arguments with the manufacturer over this. Assuming I can figure out where the next split is, which appears to be up there. Yes, there we go. And this is the first video I've ever done, so I apologise if it's a bit jerky and if I'm talking absolute total twaddle. because I'm good at that anyway. Okay, let's see if it comes off. There we go. So let's see what we've got, if there's any. It's a little bit dusty, and it's not like the fans are completely clogged. So now all we have to do is figure out how all of this comes off very carefully. And it looks like the fan assembly is actually attached to the heatsink. So my thinking is, this is the CPU, well, this is the CPU area under here. This is the GPU. I'm going to redo the thermal paste on both. So let's see what we've got and start taking things apart. So I think we will probably release the fans first, after I've disconnected the battery, of course. No point having a squeaky clean cooling system if you fried it. So it's battery discoed. So here we go then. Let's see what's what. So let's move those down. You can bet there'll be one screw which is hidden, because I seem to be good at that sort of thing. Right, that's moving, that's good. Let's take this bracket off. Seems almost superfluous. Okay. I'm just going to put that through that. So we've got it. Just disconnect the fans. So that's the first. That's it. And this is the second. There we go. So where are we at? That is well and truly still fixed down. So now we've got the heat sinks themselves, which are held together and held down. So let's take the CPU, disconnect the CPU first. And then the GPU. Which strangely has different screws. use the plastic pry just to lift that. Okay, now to find out if there's anything else holding this whole thing together. It rather looks like there is. That's a pain. It's just stuck itself down extremely well. Oh, here we go. That's freeing itself up. I think it's just the thermal paste holding it in place. There we go. There we go. Remove that sticky tab. And we shall lift it clear. Yeah, and there we go. That's the whole cooling system for the laptop. So what I'm going to do now is clean off the thermal paste. I'll use a mixture of alcohol swabs. And strangely, glasses cleaner work just as well. The benefit of it gives the computer a lovely lemony scent. I'm sure there'll be people saying I'm a nutter, but whatever works. And this is where I'm wishing I had some proper alcohol swabs. The fact is, the thermal paste is going to smear all over the place once the heat sinks are put on. I'm going to need some more of that. Okay, that's good. I'll just clean this stuff off the sinks themselves. Nothing clean about this job. Okay, so next to apply a bit of paste, I'm going to put these blobs on the components. You don't need tons of it because it's all tightly stuck together. So, blob there. And a blob there. And then, getting everything we can out the way, refit the heatsink, trying to line everything up. That has lined up surprisingly well. So let's tighten down each thermal contact point, for want of a better word. And I tend to go across from each one. Because typically it was easier to get them out than to get them back in again. There we go. Just tighten these down gently. You're not putting a wheel on a car. I've seen so much damage to laptops where people have over-screwed and over-tightened the screws afterwards, and it really isn't necessary. It isn't going to fall apart if it's a little bit loose. So again, back in. Put this bracket back on, which I still don't really know why we've got. But there we go, that's on. And put this side, plug this one in. And this final one here. Okay, so all the fans plugged in, everything's reconnected. Most scary bit, reconnect the battery. And as quickly as possible, get the lid back on. And put the odd screw out in first. Because there's nothing worse than putting the wrong screw through the wrong hole. And then finding you've put a hole in the motherboard. Ask me how I know. I mean, hey, nobody's perfect, are they? I'm sure there are loads of things I've done wrong in this video, which aren't best practice. But I'm doing it the way that I've always done it. And if we all did things the same way, life could be a bit boring. And there we go. I am going to do a test run to see if it all comes back to life. And that's it. It's all back together. Wish me luck, I guess, and we'll see what happens. I will do another video once it's all running. Okay, well, clearly whatever I did didn't do the machine any harm, because it's booted and fans are silent, so I've definitely done something to it. So I'm now going to run some test software on the computer and see what its sensors are showing. And I have a whole wealth of software that I've chosen over the years, which just seems to do the job for me. Yeah, hardware. That's the one I want. And we'll use that one. At this point, as soon as I started doing anything to the computer, the fans would be spinning up. And it would be going completely mad. And that's not doing it now. So far the CPU temperatures are nice and within the limits Just having a look at the graphics as well, and they're all good. Graphics were actually all right. They were nice and stable. So what we'll do now is to run NovaBench, which is a lovely benchmarking tool, which I've already installed on this computer. And we'll see what that has to say. Oh, yeah, it doesn't like my memory stick. Because I happen to have some software required for doing all sorts of things. Right. So let's start the benchmark tests. This computer maxes at 91 degrees. So with fresh thermal paste, if it overheats, then I would have to think there's possibly something wrong with the temperature sensor. It is rare but not impossible. And I'll be expecting it to run up its fans now, because I'm now fully loading up the computer. The actual symptoms of this job, or that the customer described, was the graphics going really fuzzy and strange things occurring on the screen, and then the computer crashing, and the event viewer was showing a code to suggest a problem with the GPU. What I found was that the computer, although it has a RTX 3060 chip on it, it was actually not using that chip. It was using the inbuilt graphics on the processor. So that might have had something to do with the, shall we say, artifacts occurring on the screen. And of course, if the CPU was getting red hot, that would be impacting the graphics as well. The fans are noticeably quieter than they were earlier. So at this point, I think I've probably cured the problem. But unfortunately, you never can tell until the computer goes back to the customer and the customer uses it the way they normally use it. But yes, there's no strange things occurring there. I am happy with its performance. I'm happy with the way the fans are running right now, that they're not running all the time. Yes, that is a lot different. I mean, laptop processors do run warmer than PC processors, just because of the limited amount of space for cooling. So you don't generally have the option for liquid cooling that gaming machines will use. And as you can see, the score has come up a long way. So there's a definite improvement there. And the temperatures come down, no problem at all. So there you have it. That is redoing the thermal paste on an MSI Pulse GL76 laptop. I do occasionally have to do heat sinks and fans for normal laptops, the general everyday laptop. Not quite as scary as something as big and as expensive as this, but it's all good fun, and I'm thank you for coming along with me on this journey, even though we've only really been sitting in my office.